This past summer, I graduated and I took a big leap to move out on my own. It was a stressful transition and I learned a lot. The last thing I wanted to worry about was finances. So to help you avoid all the confusion along the way, here's my I just moved out guide to finances. Hey, congrats, you found a job. That's a big accomplishment and you should be proud. So give yourself a pat on the back, you deserve it. Living on your own really forces you to think about what you want to get out of your life, which is a pretty loaded question that can be really stressful to answer. I know, I've been there. So let's make sure that money isn't the thing adding to your stress. This guide isn't about becoming a finance expert or optimizing every dollar, but it'll get you to that next level of financial literacy, and it's the important stuff you need to know right away. Before anything else, you need to prioritize three things. The first thing is paying off any high interest debt that's increasing by 10% or more. 2, never get back into that situation. If you get stuck here, then you'll continue to be stuck here.
And you don't want to be stuck here. Trust me.
You'll spiral into debt, sitting there like this, wondering what happened. So do those two things so you can focus on the third thing. 3, build an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months. This will serve as your lifeline for when emergencies inevitably happen. Together, these 3 things serve as the backbone for all your finances, and it gives you a great starting point where your debt is controlled and you have some security. Banking and budgeting. Set up a high yield savings account. These are liquid accounts. When something is liquid, it is easy to access without penalty. Liquidity is a spectrum, so something illiquid would be selling a house. It could take you a year plus to actually get the money from when you start your sale. A checkings account would be liquid because you can spend the money right away, and stocks would fall somewhere in the middle. These are liquid accounts where your emergency fund will sit, so it's at least earning you some money while providing you that security. I look for anything yielding 3.5% or higher. You can find this at Capital One's Performance Savings, which I use. They change a lot, so be on the lookout, but 3.4% versus like 3.5% isn't really a huge deal to be constantly switching around, in my opinion. Avoid overdrafts. You don't want your $5 coffee to end up being a $40 coffee. This can easily be avoided by setting up your account to decline transactions if funds aren't available. Set up your budgeting system. This is already probably a thing, but I like to think that I came up with it. I call it bucket budgeting. I use Capital One Performance Savings accounts to open up child accounts that I can nickname, and those will serve as the buckets. I have an emergency fund bucket, fixed expenses bucket, which are just fixed recurring payments, variable expenses bucket, like gas, groceries, etc., and an investing bucket. Each time my paycheck comes in, I've set up each of these buckets to withdraw a specific amount of money, depending on what payments need to be made. Anything left over in my checkings account is fair game for me to spend. Yeah, boy, look at this thing. Look at it go. If I don't spend the money in my checkings account by my next paycheck, I'll move that money into my investment bucket. When I need to make a purchase from one of those bucket categories, I just move the money from the savings account to my checkings account and I just make the purchase. The reason I find this method super helpful is because I can avoid itemizing and sorting every single transaction that I make. And instead, this gives me an automated hands-off way to track and budget my money. If you try this and you do find that you're still overspending, that's when you whip out the Excel sheet and start tracking all the transactions to see where you can cut and where you can't. A general rule of thumb is your checkings account should really always be a temporary stop for your money because it's better off not just sitting there. Credit and why you need it. Credit can be scary for some people, but it's mandatory since you need to build your credit score. Your credit score is effectively your borrow reliability score. So this lets lenders know how risky you are to lend money to. And having a good credit score can help increase your chances of getting good rent, loans, car insurance rates, etc. There are 5 main categories of credit score. There's payment history, credit utilization, length of credit mix, and new credit. The last 3 categories are pretty straightforward. Length of credit, it just means that you should keep your old credit cards open because the length of credit history is important. Credit mix you don't really have to worry about. It's really just opening other lines of credit. And new credit just means that you're really opening ideally one line of credit a year, but it's really more important that you're not just opening a bunch at once. The first two categories matter way more than the rest. These are paying on time and keeping your credit utilization low, which really means always pay on time and always pay off the full amount. And if possible, try not to spend more than 30% of your total credit limit at a time. It may seem counterintuitive since they gave you this large credit limit to use, but if you're only using 30% or less, from a lender's perspective, you're much more likely to pay off that. So as a general rule for a credit score, you really only want to open one line a year if possible. You always want to pay off the amount in full, and you want to keep your credit utilization under 30%. And just don't spend money that you don't have. If you live and die by your debit card and credit still worries you, at the very least, just open up one credit card, make one purchase on it each month, and just pay off that one purchase. And that will still build your credit score. As you get comfortable with credit, then you can go crazy with optimizing for the points. Insurance. Unfortunately, insurance is something we'll have to all deal with, but you'll likely only have to know 3 of them, which is health, renters, and car insurance. Before we start, you should know these insurance terms. The deductible is how much you pay out of pocket when an accident occurs. Premium is how much you pay monthly to be insured. And the out-of-pocket maximum is the maximum amount you'll pay out of pocket in a given year, health insurance. There are 3 main plans that you need to be aware of. Main health insurances are HMO, PPO, and HDHP plus an HSA. HMO is a health maintenance organization, which will be a bit cheaper, but you'll have less flexibility. If you want to see a specialist, you have to get referred from an in-network doctor. PPO is a preferred provider organization. This has more flexibility than an HMO because you can see specialists if you want to directly, but the premium is going to be a bit higher every month. With this, you'll also want to check if your doctor is in-network or out-of-network just by asking them, and that's because the price will differ. This is good for people who have doctors they like or people that may need to see specialists somewhat often compared to an average person. An HDHP plus HSA is a high deductible health plan plus a health savings account. This is the lowest monthly cost of the 3, but unlike the other ones, when a health emergency occurs, you will have to pay out of pocket. The trick with the HSA is that it's a triple tax advantage account where you contribute pre-tax money, your money grows tax-free, and you can withdraw it tax-free if you're spending it on health expenses. This is great for healthy younger individuals who can afford an emergency bill here and there and doesn't frequent the doctor very often. See what options your company provides and choose the best one that works for you. Car insurance. There are 3 main types of car insurance. There's liability, collision, and comprehensive. Liability insurance covers what you have to pay others when you're at fault for the accident. Collision covers damages to your car regardless of who's at fault. And comprehensive covers any non-crash related damages to your car, like it being stolen or a tree like crushing it. Liability insurance will be the cheapest, but I know people who've got boned for having liability insurance when a crash actually came around. I could bore you with all the details, but basically, collision insurance gives insurance companies a financial incentive to protect your driving record because they're on the hook for repairs if you get in a crash. They'll fight to keep your rates low and your record clean. So to recap, health insurance is likely to be set up through your employer and you just need to choose the one that best fits your situation. And in my opinion, at a bare minimum, just get collision insurance for your car because you don't want to get boned by insurance companies. Transportation and car stuff, if you need it. If you need to buy a car for transportation, then there's a few things you should know. If you don't, just skip the section. Things you need to know about the car is that the title is the paper that says you own the car. The registration is the paper that says you're allowed to drive the car in whatever area you're in. And the VIN number is basically your car's social security number. It's just a unique number that keeps track of the car's history so you can effectively do a background check on it. Now here's what you should know. Check the vehicle's history for accidents, salvage titles, or odometer issues. Check the maintenance records to see if it's been maintained well. you should be looking for regular oil changes, brake repairs, etc. Check mileage. More miles equals more wear, but typically cheaper. A car being unused for years is not a great sign. Use your eyes and just look around the car for damages. Test drive it, get a pre-purchase inspection. You should always ask if the dealership can cover this. Even if they don't, it's still worth the cost to do. Check the Kelley Blue Book value to make sure you aren't getting ripped off. Verify the title. After you purchase the car, you should expect you'll inevitably have to do maintenance on it at some point, so you need to save up for that. You'll need to put your title in a safe place, and you'll get a registration and license from your DMV. You'll owe property taxes on the car. You'll need insurance for the car. You'll have to renew your registration every few years for the car. Some states have emission fees that you'll have to pay out every few years. If you couldn't tell from that, cars are a pain in the ass to maintain, and they cost you a lot of money, but they do give you some more freedom. Statistically, they're the worst investment you can make, since as soon as you drive it off the lot, it loses its value, and you have to pay to refill it with gas whenever you need to go. So if you need to get one and you're not picky, I'd highly recommend just getting a reliable old used car and just use the car as a tool for now. Rent and housing. If you haven't signed a lease yet, you should stay. If you have, you can still stay if you want. When apartment hunting, add commute costs to your rent. This is an extreme example, but a $1,200 apartment with a $300 per month commute is really $1,500 a month. You might find that living closer for $1,400 a month actually saves you money and time. They'll try to come after this when you leave, so take care of your apartment and make sure to document any damages to it when you move in. Renter's insurance is usually required, so just get the cheapest option. Just like credit cards, avoid late fees like the plague because they are brutal. Know what amenities and utilities you're responsible for versus them. If you don't need the flexibility, consider a longer lease because it protects you from rent hikes later. Quick disclaimer, I'm not your financial advisor. This is not personalized advice, and I'm not responsible for your financial decisions. I'm a random dude on the internet. Investing and retirement. Investing in retirement is arguably the most important thing you'll set up once you start working, so it's important to know your choices and how to choose between them. But before you choose any accounts or investments, it's important to know why it matters or nothing else will make sense. We heard of inflation. Simply put, it just means your dollar is worth less over time, typically around 2.5 to 3% a year. What this means is you quite literally become poorer by letting your money sit idle and not doing anything with it. And to actually make money, you need to be making more than the rate of inflation in return on your investments. Retirement accounts. Retirement accounts offer tax advantages as well as the power of compound interest. And because we're talking about compounding here, starting early can make a huge difference. There are two main types of retirement accounts you need to know. There's a 401k and there's an IRA, and both of those have two different variations, a traditional and a Roth. A 401k is typically going to be offered by your employer, and in your 401k, your investment options are usually pre-selected but diversified. But the important part is many employers offer a match on contributions to your 401k. This match is effectively free money, so you should always contribute at least enough to get the full match from your company. Now for traditional versus Roth, a traditional is gonna be pre-tax money that goes into your retirement account, but when you retire and withdraw it later, it'll be taxed as income. As for a Roth, it's gonna be post-tax now, but withdrawals in retirement are gonna be tax-free. IRAs, or individual retirement accounts, are accounts that you open on your own, and they give you much more flexibility with the investments you can choose. IRAs also follow the same traditional versus Roth trade-offs as the 401k, but with the Roth IRA, there is a maximum income where you can still contribute to the account. So what should you choose? A simple question that can help you decide is, will my income be higher now or higher later? Lots of the time for younger people, the answer is usually the latter, so choosing Roth accounts now can be hugely beneficial later. You can use David Ramsey's calculator in the description if you want to calculate what your retirement income might look like. Once you get that magic number that you might have when you retire, just plug it in ChatGPT and ask it what your annual income would look like. But make sure to prompt it with the inflation adjusted income so you get a better idea of if you're making more now or if you're making more later. As a general rule of thumb, it's usually a pretty good idea to max out your Roth IRA as long as you can, and then focus on your other retirement accounts. When it comes to investing, this is a whole different beast than your retirement accounts, and it should be treated separately. It'll typically fall into two categories, and you need to figure out which one you are. There's the set set and forget people, there's the stock bros. The set and forget people know they should be investing their money, so they'll typically contribute leftover money into things like safe ETFs or stocks pegged to the S&P 500. The stock bros like to pick their own stocks to try to outmaneuver the market and strike it rich. Admittedly, it's super fun, but it's also super difficult. So I'd recommend only investing with expendable income after you properly contribute to your retirement accounts. Seriously, only do this with money you can afford to lose, or else you'll be sitting there sometime in the future saying, I'm an idiot, and wishing you just spent the money on anything else you actually wanted. But with a truly expendable income, go have fun and focus on the truly important things, like whether the Nancy Pelosi stock tracker or the inverse Kramer is gonna outperform. Unfortunately though, most people are in neither of these categories. They just freak the out and sell everything. Because money dictates so much of our lives, it's inherently gonna be a very emotional topic, and most of us end up making a lot of decisions out of fear. You need to be able to set your emotions aside and continue to contribute to your accounts throughout economic downturns. Selling during downturns in the worst case can completely wreck your retirement plans. If you sold during the worst of the COVID crash, it would have set you back almost 3 years worth of gains. Not only that, but you very likely missed the huge bounce afterwards and you were just left in a not great spot. And finally, it's important to clarify that your emergency funds should not ever be dipped into for investments. The emergency fund is what can give you the confidence to keep investing aggressively, and once you dip into those, you've removed that safety. Lastly, you don't need to funnel all your extra income into investments. It's still important to enjoy life and spend money on experiences and entertainment and doing things you want to do. Invest wisely and start early, because starting early is the biggest advantage that you have. Taxes, what to know. So you know you need to pay taxes. So what forms do you have to complete, and how do you get some of that money back? Filing taxes. You'll either need your W-2 if you're employed, or a 1099 if you are a freelancer. If you invest, depending on what you're investing in, there'll be other forms of 1099s that you'll need. These are usually going to be generated by whatever broker you're using for investing. When tax season rolls around, typically from February to April 15th, you'll need to file taxes during that time. I'd really recommend using any tax software to save you time when you're filing taxes. I personally use TurboTax, but there's other great softwares out there as well. This will make it less complicated and may end up saving you time and money in the future if you do make a mistake on what you're filing. If you paid more on taxes than what you actually owed, that's when you get a tax refund. If you paid less than what you owed, then you may have to pay more taxes. One of the main ways to reduce how much taxes you owe is to reduce your taxable income. This is done through deductions. A typical example is contributing to a traditional 401k, and that lowers your taxable income by how much you contribute. Another easy deduction is tax loss harvesting, where you can deduct up to $3,000 per year in realized investment losses. If your investment losses are greater than $3,000, then it'll roll over to the next year. But once you sell to tax loss harvest, you cannot repurchase that same investment for at least 30 days. To recap, taxes really don't have to be complicated, but you should know what to look for to make sure you're not overpaying on your taxes. Use tax software and make it easy for yourself. This is a great use case for AI, where you can actually talk and see if there's any additional deductions you might not know about that you qualify for. That's it. Thanks for watching. See ya.